Hello everybody, it's me, John Lorden. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Brain Scratch Case Cracked. You know, sometimes the path to justice is windy and takes a bit longer than a lot of us would like. This case is a clear example of that. Today we're looking into the case of Kim Ancona. Kim Ancona was a 36-year-old, well-liked bartender at the CBS Lounge in Phoenix when tragedy struck on December 29, 1991. While cleaning up the lounge after closing, Kim was sexually assaulted and then she was murdered. Ray Crone, an Air Force veteran with no criminal record, was a postal worker and regularly played darts at the CBS Lounge where Kim worked. They casually knew each other, and Ray had even given Kim a ride to a Christmas party in his prized 1974 Corvette just a week before the brutal murder. I've also seen reports that he actually helped her close just the night before she was murdered. When he was questioned about what happened to her, Ray stated that he was in bed at 10 p.m. on that night, and his roommate even backed his statement up. However, there was a heavy layer of suspicion that Ray just couldn't shake due to several bite marks found on her body. Bite marks that appeared to match Ray's less than perfect smile. Ray was arrested 2 days after being interviewed by the authorities. In 1992, his trial lasted 6 days and he was found guilty. The main piece of evidence being expert testimony about those bite marks matching his teeth. The prosecution literally had no other physical evidence that linked Ray to Kim's murder. Ray was sentenced to death, and the media would dub him the Snaggletooth Killer. Case cracked? Not quite. After spending 4 years on Arizona's death row, Ray's conviction was thrown out by the Arizona Supreme Court. The reversal of his conviction was based on the prosecution's concealment from Ray's lawyers of a videotape about the bite mark evidence until just before the trial began. A second trial would take place in 1996. Ray took the stand to claim his innocence. Although DNA tests introduced at his second trial proved that blood found on Ms. Ancona didn't belong to either her or Ray, he was again convicted using the same expert testimony linking his teeth to the bite marks on Kim. The trial judge, Maricopa County Superior Court Judge James McDougall, expressed doubt about the outcome of the trial when he wrote, "The court is left with a residual or lingering doubt about the clear identity of the killer." Judge McDougall also wrote after sentencing Ray to life in prison, "This is one of those cases that will haunt me for the rest of my life, wondering or not, have I done the right thing?" It took 6 more years before a judge forced the police and prosecutors to turn over evidence in the case to be retested. Proclaiming his innocence since the very first time he came under suspicion, on April 4th of 2002, new DNA tests proved that saliva and blood found on Miss Ancona's clothes and body proved Ray had been telling the truth. He was not a match. Not only did the tests exclude Ray, but they also implicated a man named Kenneth Phillips, who was currently imprisoned in Arizona for sexually assaulting and choking a 7-year-old girl. At the time of Kim Ancona's murder, Kenneth Phillips lived only 600 yards from the CBS Lounge and was on probation for breaking into a neighboring woman's apartment and choking while threatening to kill her. 20 days after Ms. Ancona's murder, Mr. Phillips was accused of assaulting the 7-year-old girl. He was never even considered a suspect in Kim's murder. He was convicted of killing her and is now serving a life sentence. After the DNA test results were released, Ray's lawyer, Alan Simpson, said, "This proves with certainty that Ray Crone is an innocent man. Every day from this point forward that Ray spends in jail is a day the county acts at their own peril." 4 days later, after 3,769 days of false imprisonment and 4 years of being on death row, Ray was a free man. You know, if it was just a series of mistakes and these guys would have stood up and apologized, I think I could completely get over it, Ray says. But that's not what happened. They grabbed me and then built a case out of nothing, and then they covered it up. As I'm forced to see more clearly what they did to me, it's really tough not to be angry. And beyond that, as a citizen, it's just scary as hell. Crone won settlements of $3 million and $1.4 million from Phoenix and Maricopa County, respectively. He returned to Arizona for appearances at the Arizona legislature, during which individual lawmakers apologized. Members of the House and Senate took no formal action, but stood and applauded Crone as he stood in each chamber's visitors gallery. Ray holds the distinction of being the 100th inmate exonerated from death row since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976. And he's now an activist working for the abolition of the death penalty and acting director of membership and training for the anti-death penalty organization Witness to Innocence. And what about those bite marks? What about that type of testimony? Arizona State University law professor Michael J. Sachs describes bite mark testimony as, quote, classic junk science. The Los Angeles Times reported on April 10th, 2002, that 63.5% of bite mark investigations resulted in false positives, and another 22% resulted in false negatives, according to a study by the American Board of Forensic Odontologists. Several organizations are now calling for bite mark evidence to be inadmissible in courts. As for Ray's less than perfect smile, he appeared in 2 episodes of the television show Extreme Makeover and not only lost that snaggletooth, but is now virtually unrecognizable. Case eventually cracked. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're having a great week, and I'll catch you on the next show on the Lord Nerds channel.